So let me do this button, this button. Okay, we've got a great crew here. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back live with Brain Food from the Heartland, the Louis B. Free radio show. I have to tell you, I am thrilled to have you all. And ladies, I've got to say, even I'm an old guy. I know I don't look like a gentleman, but I try to behave like one. So I always like to go ladies first. I've got to make the exception this time and start with my dear friend, Gary Morgenstein. Gary,
thank you, Louis. We're thrilled to be here to talk about my new play, A Tomato Can't Grow in the Bronx. And I'm thrilled to have this cast and this director. These are wonderful people filling the stage about a bickering, dysfunctional, loving, angry, fearful, you say it, multi-generational family that everyone can identify with.
Everyone can identify with this, right?
Yep.
Okay. A little bit about yourself and your background, Gary, for new listeners, if you would.
Do I have to do it seriously or?
You can do it. You know, it's my show. Come on, you know me. You can do it any way you want.
Sometimes I brought out the people in the chat rooms. So I'm going to behave today. I'm a novelist and a playwright, and I'm just delighted that my play about a working class family in the Bronx set in 1968, the chaotic and hopeful times of America back then, which is often forgotten. We remember the wars and the riots and the protests and the clash, but we often forget that the 1960s was also the last gasp of an America which believed in itself, which began in 1961 with John Kennedy's promise to land a man on the moon, to ask not what your country could do for you, but what you can do for your country. So within this context, this is a family trying to escape their crumbling neighborhood and fulfill what used to be called the American dream, a home in the suburbs where maybe a tomato can grow.
Maybe a tomato can grow, right? So do you want to do the introductions?
Yes, well, may I start with Bernice Garfield-Szita, who's the wonderful director of the play and also artistic director of the award-winning Center Players in Freehold, New Jersey, overseeing a sold-out 7-performance run.
Yes, that's fantastic. So Bernice, tell us about yourself.
Well, I'm going to tell you that long ago, I've been in theater now for 50 years. I know I look 21, but nonetheless, I've been here for a while. I've always loved theater from the earliest days, loved to make up stories. I wrote my first little play in the 5th grade. So, and aside from theater, I'm also a psychotherapist in my own practice using psychodrama. So I've kind of mixed my worlds together. And this play, I have to tell you, was a natural for me because my husband and I, Bob Szita, I do a lot of couples counseling and family counseling. And believe me, this play fit right in. I didn't have to look for the motivation of the characters. I knew them very well. I've been in my own practice for 40 years. And my husband and I lead the grief program called GIERS, GIERS. That stands for Grief Information Education Recovery Services. And in that program, we use the arts, and it's all a mix. I had a dear friend who was not with me at this point, and he said, I looked at your resume, and it looks like you're the social director on the Titanic with a mixture of therapy and entertainment. So this is a fabulous group. Center Players has been a year-round theater for, for going on our 21st season. In downtown Freehold with 49 seats, and all 49 have been sold, which is the miracle of miracles.
That's wonderful.
Coming after the COVID time where we were not even going into the theater. We're still observing COVID precautions because you know, we're careful for ourselves and for our patrons. So I'm delighted to work with Gary. He's a wonderful guy, separate from
He
being a
is.
wonderful playwright. So very, very thrilled to be doing this, and honored to have the ability to work with Gary, and he expressed confidence, which always helps. And this cast, I love each and every one of them. They are working hard, and very proud of all that they're doing and we're doing. So I'm going to stop there.
Thank you for that. Gary, who's next?
Let's continue. Tracy. Tracy Howard.
Tracy, good morning. Welcome. Tell us about yourself.
Well, my name is Tracy, and wanted to be an actress in my entire life. Look for any opportunity that I could. I majored in theater and TV production at the College of New Jersey, and received most of my credits through interning in New York City, because that's where I wanted to ultimately be. And I was lucky enough to land some excellent TV jobs right out of college, which, you know, were paying my rent in New York City and, you know, medical and everything, you know, but I never really had the chance to pursue acting. I've had wonderful experiences. I worked at as a TV producer and audience coordinator in many long-running TV talk shows.
Any that you want to mention? Or
I've been with the original View for 4 years, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Yeah, I can't really think offhand.
That's fine.
Geraldo Rivera. I mean, the list goes on and on. Currently I still work with the People's Court TV show as a researcher. So when my kids were born, I took a hiatus, and they're old enough for me to go back. And I said, you know what, now is the time to work on pursuing what I wanted to do my entire life, instead of taking these baby steps around it. And it's wonderful to be here. And I'm sure we'll discuss later. I'm finding all these excellent, you know, ties to the show and my own history and my own, you know, family's past, that we're all finding.
beautiful. Thank you for that. Gary, who's next?
Andrea.
Oh,
Andrea?
hello.
Andrea?
Hi. Okay, so what would you like to know? Because I've been around for a very long time. And I got a lot to talk about. So I want to make it brief and not take up everybody's
Sorry,
time.
just tell us about yourself.
Well, all right. Well, I am a mother, a grandmother. I have 3 dogs, and I started in show business when I was 16 and a half. I was going to professional children's school, and I went in as a replacement with Carol Channing on the road in Hello, Dolly as Ermengarde, and subsequently went into the Broadway production and understudied Minnie Fay. And from there, I must have done at least like 6 productions. I worked with Phyllis Diller, Betty Grable, Ethel Merman, Betsy Palmer, Dorothy L'Amour. As a matter of fact, there's kind of connection when we talk about the time that Lyndon B. Johnson, I was on the road with Hello, Dolly, and there was a knock on my dressing room door, and they said, the President of the United States would like to meet you.
Oh.
And he came to my dressing room. He came to my dressing room, and there he was. And he kissed my hand, and he said, Miss Bell,
Wow.
I sure did love your performance.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, it's so funny
That's
that we
great.
could be doing this in that time period. And subsequently went on to do a lot of theater, worked with, you know, Tammy Grimes, Ruby Dee, E.G. Marshall. I did Grease with Andrea McCardle, Desi Arnaz Jr. I was in Vina Del Mar, Chile with as a judge and a performer with Connie Stevens and Joey Travolta and Paul Marriott. But then I took off time. I had children. I had a medical problem for a while. I took off time for that. Went back and worked at Goodspeed as Mammy Yoakum in a production of Little Abner. And then, and I just have to tell you real quick. So I've been friends with Jack Kusher, who plays my husband in the show for
Hi,
4
Jack.
years. And he was actually the connection to get me to audition
Oh,
for this play, which I just love, which is just wonderful. And just having a great time, and I love everybody in the cast. It's a wonderful cast. Bernice is doing a great job with all of us. And just to wrap it up, I'm going to do a little bit of a advertisement for myself. I've been doing a cabaret show called Adventures in Vegas, which was the time that I worked in Las Vegas, in a show called Bottoms Up. And I was recently asked to do 8 performances at a brand new theater in New York City, which is opening up in June on 45th Street, on the west side, right down the street from Moulin Rouge. So I'm going to be doing my show there for 8 performances in the end of July into August. So
that's
if
great.
anybody's around, maybe they'll come.
That's wonderful. Gianna, tell us about yourself.
Hi, so
Hi.
my name is Gianna, and I've just, since I was like 7 years old, I've always just had like a passion for acting and singing, and I've done a lot of community theater throughout the state of New Jersey, and then just recently over COVID, I had gotten into TV film acting and got myself signed with Take 3 Talent Agency in TV, film, and voiceover.
Great.
And I actually, back in September, I booked my first pilot that's going to hopefully get picked up by a major streaming platform. And yeah, I just have a really big passion for acting. And a lot of people don't believe, but I actually am an opera singer. So I do have a very, like, I just love singing, like opera, rock. And I'm currently in my band teacher's office while they're doing a band class, and they're all drumming on drum pads right now. So I do have, like, I really love drumming too. So I'm into like a lot of performing arts. And I just think that when Bernice called me and asked me, hey, do you want to read for this character and audition for the role? I was like reading through it and I was like, this is really cool. And like, I just love the show, and like, I love the characters, and Bernice is doing a great job with it. And yeah.
Thank you for that. Gary, who's next?
Oh, Justin.
Justin, good
for it,
morning.
Justin.
Glad you're with us.
Could you guys hear me?
Yes, I can. Yeah.
Yes.
I was not sure. Totally just blanked out. I'm sorry.
It's just a little bit about yourself.
What is there to know?
That's what I wonder. Tell us.
I haven't
You're a young guy. We see that. You're a young
I
man
haven't
for
done
listeners.
all that too much acting, but I've always had a really big passion for it. It's something I've always really been wanting to get involved with, and I'm always happy to do more work. I feel really happy with the show that we've been doing. I did a musical in 7th grade, and then I just stopped forever until recently.
Why do you think? What did you get turned off to it in 7th grade, or was it, or what?
Ooh, it was an amazing experience. Just like right after that, I was in High School Musical. For that, one of my proudest moments, best moment of my life, I auditioned with Let It Go. And during my audition, when I got to the chorus, I threw little cut up pieces of paper at the people who were casting me, and then I got casted, of course. We were doing High School Musical, and it totally got canceled because of COVID.
Oh, wow.
So bummer, but since then I haven't done anything. This is like my debut as a person, because I was not a person in 7th grade. I was a 7th grader.
How old are you now?
I am 16.
Okay.
I'm
I
sorry.
want, as an old guy, I just want to say I appreciate you not saying, well, when I was young, talking about thank you for that.
My day,
Thank you.
back in my prime per se. I feel really confident.
How did you
about-
get connected with this play?
My dad has been working with center players forever. I don't know when he started, But actually, that is a great question. I just know I just know that he told me about it. I don't know if like Bernice and him talked about it. I actually don't know.
Bernice, can you give us some insight in that?
Yes, actually, Justin's father, Anthony Marinelli, has been working with Center Players as a director, and he is actually the director of our next production, which is Crimes of the Heart, which is opening early in May. But I've known Justin since he was younger, but
Younger. Thank you for saying younger, not young.
younger, please. He had a certain energy and he had the kind of personality that I thought would match with the character in the play, Elliot. And he has come through 100% in that department. And we're working on creating a new persona with Elliot and with Justin. And he can be quite a delight to work with, but I know everyone is going to love his performance. And of course, his dad is behind him 100%, and his mom,
Yay.
who is
Good.
the most wonderful stage mom I know. She just helps. She doesn't drive you crazy.
You are much better at talking about me than I am.
My husband says that too.
Thank you for that, Justin. Gary, who's next?
Lou Mastro, who plays Sammy Abrams.
Lou,
And I'm sorry, I should have
good
been
morning.
saying everyone's character. Apology.
Hi, I'm Lou Mastro, and I've been around community theater for roughly about 30 years, mostly doing musicals. So this is a nice difference for me. I'm enjoying this tremendously. I love these guys. I don't know what I'm gonna do when this is over, because honestly, they've become my family. Like poor Justin, he's I'm gonna have to like make him stay home and take his allowance away, because but this has been a really fun experience, a totally different from what I'm accustomed to, and it's just been a lot of fun. It's like my family's drama in front of me, because growing up in an Italian-Irish household, the similarities are unbelievable. As poor Jack listens to me every night, he shakes his head like, good God, he's got another one coming. But it's been a really, really fun experience. And Gary, I love the script. It is just, from the second I looked at it, I'm like, oh my God, this is great. It's been fun, a lot of fun.
Great. Thank you for that. Jack, good morning. Good to
Good
see you.
morning. How are you doing?
I'm I'm having a blast. Are you kidding? I'm having a blast. A little bit about yourself, if you would.
Well, I got the acting bug in college. I had been singing all my life since I'm a little boy in choir, and college days, I got the acting bug and got my first professional, actually off-Broadway show at 19 years old. And then I had a record out with RCA at 23 years old, I believe. And then I went on to do, small parts in movies, soap operas, Guiding Light, Bullets Over Broadway. I did a couple of Woody Allen movies. And I appeared singing. I write my own songs also, and I appeared in many nightclubs here and LA, and then I fell in love and left the industry for over 30 years, and the love of my life, I lost her 4 years ago, my wife, and so I just basically was numb and looked for bereavement support groups, and that's where I met Bernice. Walked in to the theater thinking that I was in the wrong place. I said, excuse me, I'm looking for a support group. And she says, well, you're in the right place. And as I said to Bernice, you know, it was like my wife telling me to go back to my second love.
Beautiful.
I did a Zoom production with Bernice, Charlotte's Web, and my friend Paul, who is PL Productions. He's videoing the show for us. He actually introduced me via audition interview to Gary for their TV series Joyland. Gary and Russell Friedman co-wrote, and that was my meeting of Gary, and I was sort of the bridge. Oh, very good. Bridge behind me. I was the bridge between Gary and Bernice. And here we are. And I'm just thrilled to finally get back on stage. That's really it. I love being different people. When I play a character, I become a different person. And that's what I love about theater. I could be someone who I'm not.
I appreciate that. And that story, that journey for you is very interesting. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. Gary, a little bit more about the writing, the process, what was going on with you when you said, I'm going to write this, I'm going to write this play?
Well, I grew up, I came of age in the 1960s, and I grew up in the Bronx, 6 blocks from Yankee Stadium. And while some of the people in my family sort of inspire these characters, the people on stage are way more normal and nicer. And that is the sad magic of a writer, is you can make things come out the way you wish they had. Sometimes you have to remember how it really came out. But I wanted to write a play when I was younger, probably talking 8, 9 years old. Every Sunday, we would get in the car in the Studebaker, and we'd go to look at homes my parents couldn't afford in like New Jersey and Long Island and upstate. And they couldn't afford it, but we would just go there. Oh, wouldn't it be nice if we could buy this house? Well, it took a long time for them to be able to afford that. And I thought, well, this is a great idea, because it just sums up so much of that period of the 1960s and the Bronx was crumbling. People were fleeing. It was called white flight. I mean, that's what it was. And people moved to New Jersey, Long Island, Riverdale, on and on. And so I wanted to capture America at that point. It's because it's multi-generational. So you have Justin Elliott, clashing with Jackie, the grandfather. You have the fear of you have Lou, who's married to Tracy Eleanor, who's kind of a troubled person, very complicated person. And Lou, is a semi-successful paper hanger who just he keeps trying to grow tomato plants on the fire escape, and they keep dying. And he says, if I could just have a home, and he would be himself, and he would have autonomy. He'd be out from under the shadow of the patriarch, Harry. So it's all that of the times. And, I know Bernice and I had talks early on about, God bless you, about some of the language of the times. But that's what I think is wrong for a writer. And I think because we have a woke culture and a cancel culture, and you're not quite allowed to say what you want, you have to look at how things were and stories, how they were. You don't have to agree with them, but you must show the reality. You must show the truth. And it's up to the audience to decide. That doesn't, we have a polarized world, and there's a less political thing I'm going to say. We have a polarized world where merely explaining something gets you targeted as agreeing. And that's dangerous, because that degrades our ability to think and understand. So there are things, there's a politics in this play, which I don't share. I mean, I don't always share with my characters. Sometimes I'm horrified what they say too, but you have to show it, and you have to present it, and you have to show the times. That's, and I think the 1960s, so much, and then I'll turn it over to someone else. So much of today started in the 60s. So many issues remained unresolved. The issues of equal rights, but you talk about the hubris of America, and the great example is Lyndon, but there was the hope. There was the belief that we could change the world. We had just, remember, 1968, that's 6 years after the Cuban Missile Crisis, and we nearly came to World War III. Forget what's happening in the Ukraine. That was nearly World War III. That was a very hot, cold war. But when Lyndon Johnson, Andrea's buddy, in 1965, got Congress to pass the Great Society, the two aims of the Great Society were the eradication of racism and the elimination of poverty. Guess what? It didn't work. But we thought we could do it. We thought we could do it, and that's critical. And so in the play, I want to show this is still in America where Sammy says, yeah, my life will change. Just let me buy my home in the suburbs. And my marriage will be better, and my relationship with my son will be better. And it's that feeling of optimism, even amid the carnage of the times, that I want to capture. And I think that's very important for us to remember. That the Talmud says, before you know where you are going, you must first know from whence you came. And I think we need to remember that. And now
Okay. No, that's interesting because of optimism. I know people struggle. I want to get into a whole political thing or whole thing today, but struggling with optimism today. And it was a very optimistic time in light of everything that was going on.
I mean, look, can I just say, Justin, his character Elliot, and I share a reverence for Robert Kennedy. And in 1968, we had leaders, but Robert Kennedy in his tragically aborted presidential run in 1968 would pepper his speeches with a quote from George Bernard Shaw, which said, "Some men see things as they are and ask why. I dream things that never were and ask why not." Who would ever say that now without being mocked? But that was a time when you thought, well, maybe we could do that. And I think that informs the play, that sort of hope. With all the bickering of the family, there's a hopefulness there. And then, which we need today. We need to have, the play is very positive, right? And it's funny. And I think you need to expose audiences to that. Now I'm going to be quiet.
Who wants to, anybody want to comment?
I was just going to say, during that time when Lyndon B. Johnson was around and he came, I mean, I was not a proponent because, I was against the war and in Vietnam, and I'm very happy to say that I am a Democrat all the way. And I didn't realize, I'm out on the road and I'm performing and having this good time. In the meantime, around me at that time, all these young men were losing their lives. And, now in this stage of my life, I look back and I realize that, so many things that were going on at that time when I was a young person, I didn't realize. Really. And now as, an older woman, a senior, I can empathize with all the things that were going on, because as a young person, I was blind to it. I was just living my life.
I was one of those on one of those lines saying, hey, LBJ, how many boys did you kill today?
Right.
Yeah, those were tumultuous times. I had a couple of acquaintances who did not come back from Vietnam. And I was lucky enough to be in school. Actually, that's the only lottery I ever won. They came out with a lottery for the draft where they picked a number like number one,
Jack, I remember.
Birthday, December 2nd, and that they would draft you by your number. And they pulled for my birthday number 289. And they only got up to number 95 that year as the war was winding down at the end of Johnson's reign. So it was, but relating, the lines in this play, it always amazes me how Gary, in his novels also, how he can go to the history of each character, the background of each character. It's hard as an actor. It's hard enough to get to your own background, to get your true character on stage. And it amazes me how Gary writes all these different characters with histories behind each and every one of them.
By the way, I remember the lottery. I remember I wasn't so lucky with the number, and I remember getting the physical and ready to go when they stopped drafting. I remember that. I remember the lottery. A lot of people don't, but Jack, I remember that very, very, very vividly, very clearly. Gary, I remember when you said to me once that the characters will tell you. I wouldn't say that. And I've talked with a lot of novelists, and I bring that up. I ask them, do characters talk to you? Because I remember you saying that they'll actually tell you that. I wouldn't say that.
Well, they take over, and that it sounds terribly precious. Go, well, you're the writer. Well, and this is, the psyche of a writer, but it's true in writers. When you're writing this, you're writing, whatever it is, they will take over the scene sometimes, and they will, and you think, oh, this is how it's going to start. Well, no, that's not how it ends, and it's a strange feeling. Any other profession, I would be heavily on medication. heavy doses, I would be barely lucid. But here, it's like being an actor. You could transform yourself, and you'll make believe. And it's very, I'm going to defer to Bernice about that, but it's much healthier to let this out and to let, the 20 different people running around in my head have their way and more productive. I'm married for the second time. As they say, it's the triumph of hope over experience. And early on, my wife was sitting in the room with me when I was writing, which I don't allow anymore. And so I'm writing and just oblivious. She says, "What's wrong?" I said, "Nothing." She says, "Your face, it's all consumed and twisted." I said, "It's the characters. I don't know, whatever they're doing." And but it's much, I grew up, and then I want to turn off to, I grew up in a very dysfunctional family, a family where there was no, I think probably like Lou, we're arguing, screaming, yelling. I'm going to kill myself. I'm going to kill you. Blah, blah. That was, passed for communication. And so I withdrew, and I figured the worlds I could create have to be better than this. And fortunately, I came out.
Bernice will be setting an appointment up for you.
We'll talk after this. But I just wanted to say that in psychodrama, the concept is that we take one person's story. It could be Gary's story, and then a moment that was difficult for you. And in the group, people will play the different roles in your life. They might play your father, your mother, your brother. And in that process, when you're playing a role, you feel the person's feelings deeply. And that's true on stage, and it's true in this process. And sometimes people are able to give insight to the person whose story we're working with, such as, even though your mother was screaming a lot, she was really a very frightened woman. I could feel the fear in her, and this was her way of trying to control life or whatever, to be louder than everyone else or whatever. And we call that doubling, or going into the feelings of the person. And I also just wanted to say that one of the reasons I've always loved theater and the arts is that people are able to say and feel what they need to do and say, rather than being closed down in other kinds of fields. The arts, to me, are very optimistic. They allow for the possibilities, and we are changed. Even when we play a role in somebody's life or in somebody's psychodrama, we are forever changed because we feel what they feel. And anyone who knows me at the theater, I always try to find socially relevant material that people will enjoy, but will also come away with some ideas and some insight. And when I read this, I said, this is one of those wonderful plays. I had some other people read it and they just got stuck on the language. They said, we can't say that on stage. I said, I don't care what we say personally, what is said, because in the end, it all works its way out. But many people can get stuck and then they don't hear the rest. And so Gary and I spent some time together going through the script, trying to keep everything with integrity, but not so that it would be quite so shocking to some of the people who learn too well, socially and politically correct language. So I'm thrilled that we're doing it, and I'm thrilled that we're getting such a warm reception. We didn't know if we'd have anyone in the audience. We had to redo it again. We had it set for February, and then Omicron came dancing across the waters, and we had to not do it. And I said, okay, let's do it in April. Maybe by then, everything. And I know there's a theater god, and he was watching and she was watching, and it worked. So I am so excited when every ticket
sold out.
Yes.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's got to feel great for all of you.
Mhm.
Yes.
And quite honestly, this production, it's applicable to anybody's family background. It's not just a Jewish family in the Bronx or an Italian family in this place or this. It's so adaptable because everybody's got somebody that's a Sammy or an Ellie or an Ellen or Elliot or mom or dad or the Giannas. We're all intermingled into society in everybody's homes. I felt so comfortable when we started reading this because of the fact that it was so relatable. And I, like Jack, was fortunate enough to come and meet Bernice through grief. After my wife had passed, I had hunted frantically. COVID started and there was nowhere to go. Everything was closed. And then I saw this face on the internet, the one picture, and it was Bernice's face. And I said, oh, Ethel Merman. And I did, and I called, and it has been a magnificent experience because I got to meet all these wonderful people as well as the people in my group. And you're right, it's an outlet. It allows you to take your grief, or it doesn't even have to be grief, it could be anything you're going through in your life, and apply. And it's an outlet. It's a means for you to let your expressiveness come out without offending or insulting anybody, because it's in the script. It's not me. Blame Gary. It's not me.
Yeah.
So thank you.
That's beautiful. Gianna, what's it been like for you?
It has been very interesting and it's been very fun. And it's just been a lot of different things, like with Lou telling his crazy stories about his life, and how, like with the meatballs and with Justin.
The meatballs.
And
make our
taking
series
photos of
very
of
difficult.
holes and doors. It's been very interesting, but it's really just my character, Madeline. She's just like a young woman in the 60s who just is trying to find like her place like in the world, and she's always like, in her words, messing up, and she's tried so many different things that it's just never good enough. And then she comes to the realization that she just has to like find something she needs to do, and she wants to succeed in something. And then she meets this crazy family trying to sell a house for the first time, and then she meets Elliot, and like Elliot kind of helps her like get what she needs to get done. And then in the end, she winds up selling the house and realizing that she's done something like really great for a change. And I can really relate to that in a way where she's just trying to find what she wants to do with herself and finally just like succeed and get something right. And just be in a way. And she's also like a very hippie, down to earth person. And that's what like I love about her. So yeah, it's been really cool.
Great. Justin, for you, what's the experience been like for you?
I love how infinitely relatable the show is. Piggybacking off of what Lou had said about it, it really feels like every character represents somebody that you can have in your life.
Huh.
Because they're so down to earth and realistic. It's almost scary. I personally really relate to Elliot being in a position where I feel like a lot of the people that I grew up around do kind of remind me of the family. My friend, not my family. So I can
Other
definitely
people.
relate.
You had to do your disclaimer there in case Dad doesn't think right.
I could definitely relate to being the voice of reason on a lot of fronts to a lot of different people. And I really, the character fits like a glove. It's all really nice. All of it feels so realistic and natural. And I feel like everybody in the cast is so perfect in their roles. And I feel like we all get along really well.
That's great. Tracy, for you?
Well, for me, I play an adult child who is manipulated by her parents, and she has to make the decision whether to remain in her comfort zone or, fly the nest, fly away. And I think a lot of us could relate to that, in some way. And Eleanor has so many layers to her that get peeled throughout the show. And it's been a fun challenge for me to draw on my various experiences in my life to relate to what she's going through in each scene. And, her mind changes. I wasn't around in the 1960s, but, my father liked to write, and he grew up on Review Place in the Bronx. And he grew up in a building that was, about 10% Jewish, 90% Irish. And, he used to tell stories about, how he was bullied by, many of the other kids, which in turn made him very introverted. But we used to spend a lot of time there in the apartment. And like, the one thing I do remember is that there was always a pound cake on the kitchen table. It's the only time in my life I ever had pound cake. And there was always a Sara Lee pound cake on the table, which comes into play in the show. We actually even have a few pieces of artwork that I had taken from there that is hanging on our set. And I love method acting, and I like to, pull from my experiences to relate to what she's going through.
It's wonderful.
I learned to smoke on the set, and we're always learning something new. Every show you're in, you learn something new.
And you learn something new about the craft, or
something, about the craft, about history, about characterization, and new emotions that somebody's going through. And it's always a new learning experience. It's about the history, the costumes, people, events of the time. We're talking about history and what's going on in the world around us in the show.
What, Andrea, for you, what the character, what's it like?
Okay, well, I love this character. And I always loved, I am a character actress. So playing the part of Gladys Sims, she is the antithesis of me, because I'm always like, the hair's got to be perfect, the makeup's got to be perfect, everything's got to be perfect. And she's a woman who just really doesn't care about herself. She's been hurt. She's been very hurt, and she carries a lot of hurt on her shoulders all her life. But she loves her grandson incredibly, and Justin is such a great guy. And I always say to him, I hope my grandson grows up to be just like you, Justin, because you're such a fine young man. And he really
How nice
is.
that is.
And they're both the young people are just incredibly, really lovely young people. So it's a pleasure. But Gladys has brought out in me a character that I think that I've always wanted to play. And now I have a chance to do it. And what's really great is I get to play opposite my friend, Jack. The whole thing, I love everybody in the play. I think the play is great. And it's
sold out. It's sold out.
It's sold out. And it's been a wonderful experience for me. And I hope it continues.
Yeah, I'll bet. Jack, a little bit more about your character, if you would.
Well, I've channeled my dad into this character. My dad was a Holocaust survivor, and because of his lack of command of the English language, he kept everything inside rather than express it. I think that if he had better command of the English language, he would have been Harry Sims.
Interesting.
Just speaking to the few friends that survived of his, they would tell me stories about how tough he was. That's how he survived. He was in 16 different concentration camps. He was a bull, so whenever they needed a worker, they would take him. So I think about that as Harry Sims, the toughness of life, what you have to go through. What my parents, what that generation during World War II had to go through. And as we said, Vietnam War, there's always a war. I'm a tough guy in the play, which I'm not in real life. And at the end, I finally am broken down by my family's needs, their wants, and I drove my daughter crazy in the play. And she's finally flying free, and I am losing control at the end. And I sort of, I remember, I never shared this with the cast, but when my line about describing when Ellie was in the hospital, bringing her, going there with 2 cups of coffee, roll with butter. I used to go to my wife having chemo, bringing our 2 cups of coffee and her roll with butter, had to be seated. And so I channel, my reality into the different parts of this play. So I can relate. Harry is not me, but I guess inwardly he can be.
I would think that would be very difficult for you, that one scene.
It is. It's very difficult. But interestingly enough, I found that like in real life, the first year after my wife passed away, I was numb, shock, numb, lost my parents and one of hers within 10 months while she was going through chemo. It was just a terrible time. And I remember not being able to cry at my parents' funeral. And I'm a crier. I cry at commercials. So it's interesting every time I do the monologue, I dig in for those memories, but I'm also thinking about the numbness and the shock when you go through grief. I just have a mixed bag with Harry Sims, but I'm loving the part. I sometimes people call me on the phone and I go, I can't talk to you right now. I'm Harry. I go, what? Who? What? Don't tell me that.
Is everybody good for another few minutes? I'm going a little overtime. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Gary, how does that feel when you hear hear this from cast about, again,
Well, it's
these are
very
characters that
heartening.
you've written. This is your play.
Well, what's interesting, when you write a novel, it's you. Your name's on it, that's it. No one, good or bad, that's it. But the wonder, the beauty of theater is the collaborative process. And the play, yes, I appreciate all this, but the play doesn't exist unless they invest life in it. There's no play without these marvelously talented people and this director, and of course the audience. And so it's exciting because I see it come to life, but it's my life. It's what I created, but yet it's not, because no one says it exactly as I hear it, which is a good thing. That's the point. No one's supposed to say it as I hear it. And that's what I'm looking forward to. It's just seeing it through everyone's eyes and everyone's experiences, everyone talking about the personality that they invested in and their own lives and different, Jackie talking about his wife. And that's what the wonderfulness of theater is. So I'm going to be like the audience. I'm going to try not to read the script as it's being acted. I'm going to try not to do it in my head. But that's why you write theater. So I thank all of them for this.
Bernice, in directing, what is that like for you?
It's a very powerful process. I'll put it out that way. First, you have to find people that you can trust to develop the character in the play. First, you love the play. That's number one. And then you find the people you could trust to have the depth, not just memorize the lines, not just spew the play, but to find the meaning in the role and to work together. And it's very powerful. As a director, I'm always trying to reach my actors and have them perform to the highest of their ability, but also aware that I have a certain position and I don't ever want to intimidate or bully or create an atmosphere of disdain where people feel shut down. And that's a delicate thing, because as you get closer to the performance, everybody's anxiety is a little bit raised. I've been doing this many years, and I can tell you when I'm going to start feeling like, oh my God, we're going to have to really push this. Oh my God, we're opening up soon. Oh my God. And he doesn't know his lines, and not to get lost in that, but just to say, okay, well, that's an area we have to work on. I also wanted to say that our set is very personal. The furniture on the set, my mother's table is being used for the Sims dining area. She got it in 1932. And, I have it. And I imagined that the Sims would not be people who threw things away. No, my parents, once you got it, you kept it forever. My husband's father was an artist, and his art is on the wall in the new home in Act 2, his father's painting. And we have artwork from Tracy's family. We have all kinds of little things that make it personal to us. So not only are we creating a fantasy, we're, incorporating our own history and our own work into it. And that's what theater is. And I just wanted to say, Jackie, you said that you felt broken down in the end. Now, my feeling is you were opened up in that life was going to be better for you because, people were no longer intimidated in your family, and your wife was open to you. With your opening, others could get closer. And that's something people don't always understand, that if we open, you're not being weak. You're being real, and it allows a greater love and depth to happen. And so all of that coming together, and this cast, we call it off book. They knew their lines like a month before we had to start. Here and there, they would say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot a line." And I said, "Oh, I started as an actress in community theater. So I know you can know everything cold, and then something can distract you and you'll forget your line, but they're helping each other out. And that's the joy. So when I see it coming together this way, it actually brings me to tears. Luckily, the theater is dark. So nobody sees it. But it's a marvelous experience. And I'm so very honored that everyone is working with me. I will share also the experience level in this cast is monumental in certain ways. I often get, we have people who've been in theater for 30, 40 years, and then we have people first time on stage. That's a big range to work with, but it's a powerful combination, and everyone has been very loving and kind to
It's
each other.
beautiful.
So I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled.
As it gets closer to opening, which is Friday, right?
Friday, yes.
Wow. Any witching hour? Is that what you said?
Witching hour.
It's got to be very exciting for it to be, Gary, for it to be sold out. How's that? I mean, obviously, if I ask you, how's that feel for you? Feels good, right? But it's with COVID, after everything, the work that you've put into this.
It's remarkable because I know maybe 10 people. That's it. So this is just depending on the kindness of strangers. So people are not coming because it's me. They're coming, obviously they know the cast, but they're coming for, that and the reputation of Center Players as a theater of quality work, but also because they like how the play sounds. And that's, it'll come across wrong to say it's old fashioned, but they don't have plays like this anymore. They've kind of fallen out of favor.
Explain that.
Well, they don't. First of all, so many plays have to be message and have to be so heavily steeped in saying something. Or Broadway, everything is just a remake of, it's soon going to be like Hollywood. We're going to be making musicals about video games, or graphic novels. But it's just about people. It's just trying to talk about the human condition, warts and all. And these are very flawed people. There's no like, oh, this is a perfect, no. They're like all of us. And it's kind of that sort of, I like to think it's like Neil Simon with a little more edge. And those, the Jewish experiences, as Lou says, it's really not about being Jewish, but that Jewish family is not on stage anymore. It's a different, and it's also, frankly, about tough Jews. And Bernice and I had this conversation at the very beginning. As all too often on theater and in entertainment, Jews are portrayed as either orthodontists or nebbishes.
Accountants are very big.
Accountants are very big. Yes, they're not threatening, or victims from the Holocaust. Okay, and this is not to minimize what the people of the Holocaust went through, but when you do a play about it, it comes across, well, they're being victimized. This is about tough Jews. Harry has a baseball bat. Sammy, Lou, they were boxers. This was the people that I grew up with in the Bronx. And I think that's a page of history, and also not just tough Jews, but the working class. And this is very important to me. Way too often, the working class in modern entertainment is portrayed with a sneer. And that's not smart. I hate to use it, but they're kind of, the deplorables. And and I think that I revere, having been a child of the working class, and the people who, help build this country, I think they need to be shown with respect. And again, these are flawed characters. There's things you're going to go, are you kidding me? They really did that. But I think there needs to be more entertainment about the trials and tribulations of America's working class and the roots and all the contributions that they made to making this country what it is.
It's very, very exciting. Where do you think it goes from here? Sold out. I mean,
God's ears. Let's hope we want more. We want, to have this sold out run, catapult us into an even bigger theater and maybe New York, hopefully New York. Let's do it.
hopefully. I mean, it sounds wonderful. You all are just wonderful. Does anybody want to offer up anything before we close? Anybody?
I don't know.
Very
Just
open.
thank you very much for having us.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's
Really
my honor.
appreciate being on your show.
Thank you.
and-
It's my honor. It's my honor. But
Thank you.
anybody, thank you. I'm a little shy.
Aw.
But anybody have anything they want to say about this show?
I don't
Thank
think-
you for that. I'm grateful, but I see I'm blushing. I
Aw.
feel it. Thank you. But anybody want to?
I don't think any of us can imagine not being together again 2 weeks
Beautiful.
from today.
You're absolutely right.
Not yet.
Right.
We'll be open soon.
I
Well,
mean,
I have.
We're going to be
many
together in
other
a few
projects.
hours, and we're looking forward to it in person. Yeah, it's weird to think in 2 weeks it'll be over.
Well, you're never
Hopefully
going to
not.
get away from us if you choose not to, just so you know. People know me. We have people involved with our theater for 20, 30 years because it becomes family. And I had said that to Gary, that often we've had marriages from our theater, people in the back who got to know each other in the dressing room.
That's wonderful.
Not in a biblical way,
not,
but
not know each other, know each other.
nonetheless, the intimacy of everybody.
And maybe some of that too, though. Bernice, maybe,
That
who
too, but
knows,
not-
right?
Not in the dressing room.
Well,
Anyway,
well.
but, it's wonderful. It's a wonderful possibility, and we are going to be doing other programs, projects, and activities in which you will be on the top of the list to recreate, and maybe we will do it again. I don't
that'd be
know.
beautiful.
We have the other show coming right on the heels of this, beginning in May, a month after we close, a little less than a month. And so we can't add a weekend. We would have if we had that space, but we can't. But that doesn't mean it can't happen again. We've got all the props, costumes, and so on, and none of it was purchased. They're all very personal. So,
A magnificent tomato plant made by one of the crew, which is
yeah.
just incredible.
Right, that was something we were worried about. We called all the nurseries in town and said, do you have a tomato plant we can kill? And they said, are you crazy? What do you want?
I've got to believe it's difficult after
It
closing.
was really a
Closing
challenge.
after everybody, when you have to go, because you become such a family
Yeah,
working together like this.
Usually
sharing things.
the couple of days after closing are depressing
I'll
days.
bet.
yes. And while you're at this point, I'll just say right before you say, why did I ever say I would do this? This is so much pressure. Then after the show ends, you say, well, what am I going to do next?
What's next? What's
And
next?
I have to say, as a writer, I'm astonished you guys could do what you do. I would be mortified. I don't know how you do it. I'll be cool.
I don't know how you wrote it either.
Well,
so-
Gary, we don't know how you do it either.
Well, but
Gary, we
right in
don't-
front of the people, really, I'm just, a little crazy. So that's all right.
Not
You guys
crazy,
do it live.
crazy.
Remembering
All
your
crazy.
lines.
A lot.
I'm always a bit in awe of actors. So God bless you.
I've got to tell you again, I'm just honored to have you all on the show today. This is wonderful and insightful. A Tomato Can't Grow in the Bronx premieres on Friday, but there's going to be something down the road. There's got to be, right? Everybody,
Yeah.
Ready.
got to be. That's got to be. It's fantastic. I want to thank you all. This has been beautiful. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you,
you.
everyone. Take
Hopefully
care.
we'll be,
Bye. See you Friday.
we'll be doing it
Bye.
again soon.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you, Louis.
How
Bye.
wonderful.
It's a Brady Bunch. Dun, dun,
Oh, yeah. It's like you're right.
Brady Bunch, right.
And Anyone want to sing the song? I don't remember it.
Here's the story.
I don't
of a
either. I
lovely
don't-
lady.
What song?
Here's the story
Of
of
a
a
A
lovely
lovely lady who had there was one of them.
I don't think
Miracle, like their mother.
It's the Sims and Abrams bunch.
I don't think Justin and Gianna, we're really dating ourselves, aren't we?
Yeah.
You're like the Brady Bunch. What is that?
Yeah.
We both went back to school.
That was a blast. Thank you.
Thank you,
all.
guys.
How wonderful, folks. We've got links up at louisfreeshow.com and wfmj.com. It'll be up on podcast, also on